Welcome back everyone to the Railroad Challenge. Today we are going to start building our line that's going to be heading down towards the south, eventually ending in the dark oak forest, which begins right around the point where our station will be going. We are going to build this mainly out of oak because that's the predominant wood in the area, and maybe some birch highlights on top of that since we have birch at the beginning here, though I don't know how common it is later on in here, but I presume it's going to be here and there as we go through. So we'll go by that assumption for now. In this case, we have a tunnel very soon after we exit the location. In fact, I might even just start out with the tunnel, though I might have a little bit of a transition for oak or something like that. Then I'll head on into a granite area, and I'll be going through a granite area all the way through here. Now, one nice thing about using granite here is we have some sections that are already granite, so I don't have to worry about replacing the rocks there. And I could replace the dirt with the granite, and that won't be too much of a change on texture there. I most likely will flatten this out rather than going up and down, and then we go back down into the swamp. So we'll end the tunnel right, I'd say right around here would be a good place to stop the tunnel, right where it ends naturally at the moment. So we'll do that. We'll use granite, not polished granite, but regular granite, and just place it all the way down through there on the three sides. We'll see how that looks. I'll probably have to vary it a little bit in some decoration afterwards, but let's start out with pure granite and see what happens. Well, most likely the first thing that's going to happen is that I'm going to run out of granite, but that's to be expected. That's how it looks with pure granite on there. It could look a little bit better, I must admit, but at the moment I'm not too sure what I want to do. One thing I was thinking of was to perhaps come in on a slight arch shape, but if I did that, I think it'll maybe not improve its look any. So I want to see if I can find a way to improve its look before I do anything of that type. Now, what I have here, this is a way to get into the station, out of the station. I was trying to figure out the best way to get to the track, since it was rather difficult with the way the hillside is built. And what I'm doing then is just putting a door here, have a way to get in and out here. That way I could do track maintenance right there. When we reach the end here, it looks a little boxy right now. We'll have to take care of that. But another thing I need to take care of is some means to keep mobs that spawn up here from getting down into the rails. I'll have to add a fifth fence there as soon as I get one. Actually, no, better idea. Of course, this is 1.14, which means granite walls. 5 walls. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we could place a torch on either side there. Good. Now this side is a little bit of a danger at the moment. We have to make sure that when we build our fences and walls along the side that this is not above. So we have to level another point on each side of there at some point. But for now, let's worry about what the entrance looks like. Alright. It even adds a little bit of depth there in addition to providing some security. So I think I like that. I think we have one more level that is made out of polished granite. There you go. Maybe I'll use stairs on the sides or something like that. I'll see how that works for the time being. But figure polished on the outside there and then using regular granite all the way through. And speaking of polished granite, another thing I want to do with the stuff is right here is to add a little bit of variation here, because I thought maybe one easy way to add a little bit of variation would be to use polished granite. Let's for now just add it at each of the points where we have the powered rails, and if we need it more often, then I will do it at the intervals also. And 1, 2, 3 there. I just noticed, of course, I built this facade here after I built the wall. So the wall is really too far back by 1. Good. And, of course, with all of this here, you notice we've got the smooth at each of the powered rails. This breaks the pattern here, so I'm actually going to move this out by 1, so I have one more regular, and then put the smooth one more out, and that way the facade is going to be with the last of the powered rails. Just for a little, I know maybe that's a little bit too consistent, but I think I'll go with that. Let's do it this way, and it'll mean that I'll have one more place where I'll be putting a lamp. So I think that will work out in that regard. So let's put one lantern up here. Good. Have a nice lantern on the exit that is in a consistent way from all the others. Now we can put the walls back up and see how that looks, because I thought it looked a little bit too far back last time. Alright, much better. Our next task is to finish the final stretch before we reach the dark oak forest over there. And in this case, we have a deeper water. And I feel that it'll be best to build a bridge here instead of continuing the causeway, because we want to be able to give room for the fish and wildlife to go back and forth in the areas, and so far we don't have any such area, but I think this will be a perfect section for that, and it'll mean that we'll need fewer resources. Besides, I am out of gravel, and this will give me a reason to switch up and go back to cobble for what I'm doing here. So I want to start by building the cobble right here. I think, actually, I want to first find out, where are we here? This is 1, 2, 3. This is a redstone point right here. I guess the redstone points would be a good place to place a pillar for the bridge. If I can do anything semi-accurately, that is. There you go. And I'll just add these every 8. Let's see how that looks. I changed my mind and went with 4 instead of 8 as my interval. One of the reasons for that is because I had the redstone torches over the pillars there, but that meant that the posts were now in the middle of the area at the weakest part of the bridge. That did not make sense whatsoever. And the other reason why I decided was because I thought it would look a bit thin on the side if I did an interval of 8 instead of 4. So what I'm going to do over here then is to put some of these and see how this looks. I'll do it for the first 2 areas, and if that If I like the way that looks, then I will go with it. Now if I could just keep that set, I'll be fine. Alright, now let's have a look. Yes. It's far enough apart so that the fish can get on one side to the other, but it's not so far apart that it looks like the whole thing is unsupported. Good. Once we get to the far side, we can resume with the cobblestone and continue all the way down to the station, which is there. Now, the question is, where should the station go? Should I climb up to head to the station, build it up on top, or shall I go under? Now, the thing that eventually made my decision on this is not here, where climbing looks like it'll work, but on the other side, as soon as we get up here and get past the station and go along on the other side for a little while, then we drop down suddenly right over here. Yeah. So perhaps I will just go under because that'll make that particular portion a little bit easier. I've got an idea. What I'll do for this one is have the station underground, or I should say the tracks underground, but where you enter the station all will be above ground, similar to how many subway stations work in modern cities, where you have all the trains and all that stuff. It's called a subway station. The train's tracks are obviously underground, but you enter it from street level or from a nearby building or something like that. And obviously I have to do something about this little pond here, but I could leverage this into what? A fishing area or what? I'll have to decide on that. Though I suspect the average city's subway system is a little bit deeper underground than what we've got here. But that's what we have to live with. This right here is the point where we are supposed to have our station. So we have to take that into account. Build the station around it as per usual. Then we can see what we could do above ground. And I have to make sure I have a way that's credible in holding everything up here. There's only a 5-block difference between this block right here. 1, 2, 3, 5 blocks between the one where we're going to be building a station and where I was originally planning to build it. So that's all fine and good, except it's not really going to look very much underground, is it? It'll sort of be recessed into the ground instead. But I suppose we could live with that and maybe take that into account in our little architecture here. Sort of be a new style to attempt then. I'll probably take down 1 or 2 trees in that area. Besides, dark oak seems like a natural material in which to be using for the materials of this station. That should be no problem. And I'll probably have to replace some of this. Thus, the walls and stuff like that are probably going to be replaced with dark oak. But right now, let's get an idea of our outline and to remove any trees that are going to be in the way of what we're doing. Now, what am I going to do about this? Exposed or under dirt? Definitely not under dirt. I'll have it either exposed or I will have it with a glass on top of it. Now, there isn't much in the way of sand in the area, is there? Oh yes, there's sand right here. So a potential source of glass that we have. It's now exposed, but it'll certainly need to be made a bit more neat before we call that finished. But that'll be for later. Right now I want to make sure I have this all set up, and as you can see, even here we have some of it that's peeking up through here, so I'm definitely going to have a ceiling of some sort, and that's going to be a ceiling that is what do we make it from? I was thinking of having a stone type ceiling to bear the weight we need, but I think in the key areas we are going to be having a building going up in any case, a wooden building, so I think a wooden ceiling and all around. I think instead of really a true tunnel, we're actually going to just have a terminal building whose lower floor happens to be where the line comes through, and the upper floor would be the ground level. Yeah, that works. And in light of that, I am just getting rid of all the dirt that's above it so that I can work it that way. Now, once I get to the stone here, I will consider this to be a true tunnel, because that means the ground has raised up high enough that will actually really be significantly underground. But for here, yeah, just the building. One other thing I need to consider is that this being a roofed forest, mobs can spawn here, apparently occasionally over even in the daytime, because I was just attacked by a zombie. And where zombies can spawn means creepers can spawn, and I obviously don't want any creepers in this area. That means any exposed areas are going to be needed to be well guarded. That means if this is going to be exposed to the sky truly, so that I can get rain, I am going to also have to include guardrails and all the like. I don't want mobs coming down and ruining my day. Right? Of course not. Now, I am going to have to change these dirt walls here into wooden ones, but I want to make sure I have a pretty good idea of my design. Based on how everything is right now, I'm going to have all of the services on this side, including the little fishing and cooling off area here, and maybe some sort of storage area right here. And we're going to have the little terminal here, but I think I'm going to have very minimalistic stuff here. I'll just close off on this end and have this just as our rail line side, and then all of our real stuff is going to be down on this end. How deep, I'll just have to make a decision on that as I go along. I think that's where I'm going to leave it here today, and next time we are actually going to go and start building this particular terminal, and between episodes I will see about getting the rest of this done so that I can have the line at least get all the way up to about, I would say, right here, because after that we will actually be getting into the building area. But that's it for today, and I'll see you next time when we return to the Railroad Challenge.